Hi viewers, I am Dr. Ashraf Majroo, Professor of Community Medicine. I welcome you in the learning session of Research Proposal Development. The learning objective uh, of this session are: number one, what is the research proposal and synopsis? What is essential? Why it is essential? Steps for research conduction, outline of the research proposal, research methodology and study designs, drafting research proposal. The research now what is research proposal? How we define the research proposal? It is a brief, systematically written document describing the events as we foresee to be happened in real circumstances. That means how the research under your selected topic will be actually carried out. The blueprint document of this research process is defined as the research proposal. It is also known as research protocol, having the similar meaning, and research proposal and synopsis. These are the synonyms of this research proposal. The research proposal is essential for every research study. This is for master, MPhil and PhD programs, thesis writing, and dissertation of fellowships, and paper publication, and then professional business research proposal. Here I remind you that in professional business research proposals, the financial proposal is also very important, and you have to either submit combined proposal with the financial proposal, or you have to submit uh, two separate technical and financial proposals. Similarly, the health system research also need the proposal, the most frequently conducted research in public health and healthcare. So that is why you must know how to prepare a research proposal document. Now, what is the research sequence? The research sequence starts with the human thinking process. You are curious to learn about the things and to add into the existing body of the knowledge. And then you plan how you will do this research work, and you will clear the methodology, plan the methodology and data collections, and then execute that plan and operationalize that research plan, and then ultimately you generate the publication. So when you think you are actually generating a research question. So the first thing required in research sequence is the generation of research question. Um, we will take on how we generate the research question, what are the basis of generation of the research question. Then after framing the research problem or research question, then we develop the research proposal, and that document mainly focus on the methodology of the research. Then field work is done, and then that planning you have made, or the proposal you have developed, then it will be implemented. And mostly the researches are data based, and data collection and analysis is the execution of the um, research proposal. The research proposals are approved by the competent authorities, and then they are executed. Who develop these research proposals. Then report writing is the ultimate product of the in the research sequence. So moving forward, what essential thing is required for research is the curiosity is instinct of the human, and then for to satisfy those curiosities, the commitments are there, and then you must have the skills to use the computer. Curiosity is, in a sense, too difficult to explain, but it is perceived as a natural human instinct, and you can appreciate the curiosity. And from this picture, you see a small kid how curious he is looking in the computer, and that is the curiosity is shining in the eyes of this kid. So this is just to show you how the research instinct is started. Then steps for conduction of research. The research is conducted in a sequence. The first is the formulation of the research question, and then framing the literature, performing the literature review. Uh, Performing literature review and the formulation of research question, who comes first, it can't be determined. Either you can go first, you perform the literature review, and then you frame your formulate your research question, or you first formulate your research question and then you go for the literature review. Developing the research project is the first two steps. They are really essential before the developing research proposal. These two things are two steps they are required. Then performing data collection. This is actually the implementation of the research proposal, and then you do the analysis on the collected data and draw the inferences from and interpret those inferences, discuss those inferences, and then you write the results. After writing your reports on the database, and that generate the new knowledge, and then you uh, disseminate your collected information to the other people. So this is the sequence, stepwise sequence of performing, conducting a research study. The typical components of research is the title of the research title, area of the research, then research objectives, research background and question, then methodology. Methodology again is set of different actions to be taken, and then ethical consideration and questionnaire and reference and annex. These nine things, they are an essential component of a typical research proposal. Now, moving forward, the research title and the precisely phrased statement in calculated word that must include prominent study objective, um, and then study population and place or geographical location of the study. So and the properly framed statement must contain these three things. Prominent study objectives. Sometimes we frame many objectives in a study, but the prominent, most conspicuous objective that can be reflected in the title of the study. Then it must be based on the rational selection of research area. So behind the research title, and there are many criterions, criterion based research titles are always, and basis of the research titles are the relevance. It mainly pertain to your study area. Specifically, if you are doing some thesis or your PhD program or fellowship program, then the question arises whether your research title is matching with your relevant field of subject. So it must match in these conditions when you are fulfilling your academic requirements. Then need and urgency. This is again a very important criteria for selection of research topic. For example, if there is some epidemic like coronavirus or SARS, then and it claim the lives, it causes mortality and morbidity, and that is why the urgency arises. The urgency is measured in the form of the economic and the human life losses, and those researches, they are more urgent as compared to the other researches. Then innovativeness is the essential for research. What piece of knowledge you are going to add into the existing body of the knowledge, it is essential. Otherwise, it will be considered as repetition. Then feasibility of your research conduction. If you frame a very good research question, but if you don't have the resources and you are unable to do that research, that is also one of the important factor. Then when all these things happen and the research is conducted, you have to think about the utility of research, how it will be utilized, whether it has some policy impact or policy implication. So these are the basis of behind the selection of the research title. They are very important, and sometimes we frame the rationale of the study, why we are going to do this study, and that is abstracted from the relevance, the need and the urgency, the innovativeness, the feasibility, the abstract of all these criterion will be reflected in the form of a rational or importance of the research. Then for introduction and literature review in synopsis, usually under one title, that may be introduction or background. 1 to 2 pages is given as a background, and that depicts the depth of the problem under study with references. This is very important and initiating point of the research. And the introduction should depict the problem in a global, regional, and local perspective. And it must be based on the data drawn facts. While you are depicting the global, regional, or local problems, then you have to give references from there where these statistics are taken. So you must have mentioned the you must mention the references of the data drawn facts. Rationalize the current research in the contextual perspective. As you have gone through the literature, you have depicted the problem and you have highlighted the local circumstances, then you have to rationalize your research in the perspective of your literature review. That in the last paragraph of your literature review must be very crisp, and it should depict the rationale of your research. The objective and the specific statements which are framed, what you are actually going to find from your study data, and they are the study objectives, and the characteristic of the study object must be based on the data outcome, the data which you are going to reflect in literature review. You are digging the facts which are based on the data from the other people, but here you are going to depict those you visualize those outcomes which are from your own data. Then specific, measurable, achievable, and the objective must be specific, measurable, quantifiable, as you have to make the tables, quantitative tables, how much is the problem, how much is the percentage, and you have to apply the statistical tests. So the things, they should be measurable, are converted into measurable indicators, and these can be achieved, and they must be realistic. Then sometimes you have to develop the hypothesis. Hypothesis is a logical statement to be tested by the research data or experimentation, and essential if your study design is analytical, and optional for the descriptive studies. Um, Sometimes the objectives are stated in hypothesis. Sometimes we don't write hypothesis separate. Your study question is framed, your objectives, they are framed in the form of hypothesis. Especially when you are doing the analytic studies, where you are comparing, you are hypothesizing that and one drug is better than the other drug, and that statement has to be proven from the data, and that is the hypothesis. Then methodology, it is again a total having many subtitles under this methodology. The first, you have to depict the study design. Study design is the most important thing to be first decide in the study methodology. When you decide this at first step, the study design, then it will ultimately itself will speak about the study setting, study duration, sample size, and sampling technique, and then inclusion, exclusion criteria, data collection procedure, and data analysis. Many things, they all the steps from second to 7, they are linked with the study design, and so you have to first when you frame the research problem, so first thing to do is deciding the study design. Then how you decide the study design. Again, it starts from the research problem. When you frame the research problem, it will be the trigger point for the research methodology. Then you have the option, strategic option, whether you go for quantitative research or qualitative research. Both, sometimes we can use both methods, Recently, most of the international agencies and in public health they demand that the combination of quantitative and qualitative research must be used, because the quantitative research dig out the facts, and they got the facts in the form of numerical data, while the qualitative research they got the reasons behind those facts. So, the public health intervention, they are mainly based on the qualitative findings, because the factors that have to be addressed, then they will be depicted through the qualitative research. So, never undermine the qualitative research. Then the design here you will bifurcate, or you can choose appropriate research design, either quantitative, qualitative, or both. Uh, after when your study design is depicted, what is study design? It is a defined course of action to investigate a problem under study. So when you choose a study design, it will highlight you, it will guide you about the study setting, about the sample size, about the sampling technique, about the inclusion criteria, about the sampling procedure, about the ethical issues, about the data analysis plan, about the interpretation of these results. So, and the study design, for example, if we choose randomized control trial, then ethical issues become more important as compared to the exploratory studies. Similarly, the sample size, when you are having the descriptive studies, then sample size will be differently estimated, and when you do the analytic studies, you find the relative risk, then your sample size will be based on the relative risk. Sampling technique, similarly, if you are having the randomized control trial or clinical trials, in clinical trials, sample technique is always purposive sampling, as compared to cross-sectional studies where the random sampling can be used. Similarly, all these things, the data analysis plan, for example, if you choose the analytic study, you have to estimate the relative risk and odds ratio. So this is how the study design is totally linked with all other methodology. So you first define your study design. For your information, the quantitative designs, they are the case reports, case series, ecological study design, and cross-sectional study, case control cohorts, and interventional or experimental studies. On the other hand, in qualitative design, phenomenology is design which is commonly used, than ethnography, grounded theory, historical case studies, and action related research. These are basically on open-ended and in social context. So, in public health and community medicine, we can't ignore the qualitative area of research. It depends upon the problem under study which type of design is appropriate. Then hierarchy of epidemiological study. This is the evolutionary hierarchy. First, we have the exploration of the and generation of hypothesis, and then we ultimately establish the causality. So at first step, we have the study design to explore the things, to describe the things. They are case reports, case series, ecological study, These are purely descriptive designs, and cross-sectional study falls in both descriptive as well as in observational analytic. It can be used for both developing and testing the hypothesis. The study which can at a time develop the hypothesis and test the hypothesis will be a cross-sectional study. Then case control, cohort and experimental study, they are exclusively analytical design. Out of those, the case control and cohort, they are observational, while the experimental analytic studies are the experimental designs, experimental analytic designs. So this is the hierarchy. But here I should mention that the researcher can take any one, any two, any of the study design without considering the hierarchy. He can straightforwardly go to the experimental design. He can even take over case support, cross-sectional case control or cohort. Any study he can choose for his research problem. But this is the natural evolutionary hierarchy of the study designs. Then ethical issues and the research ethical issue arises in all of the studies. Some of the studies, they are more particularly linked with the ethical consideration. Research must care of the human right, sense of beneficent, non-maleficent and justice. So, where the humans are the research participant, then one must care, and ethical approvals are based on addressing the ethical issues. Consent and the human right of refusal. Every person, it is his right whether he participate into the study or not, that should be preserved. And right of information, the person can ask. And then confidentiality of data, sensitive data must be analyzed in collective form, and it must not be disclosed to the people. It carries very sensitive information, especially in clinical data and other social data. Protection in trials. If you are doing the trials, then you have to protect the risks of the people, and that is known as a risk benefit analysis. So if the risks are more than the benefits, then the trial may not be executed. So these consideration must be there, and they must be framed, speak out in the research proposal. Operational definition, we have to define definition that will implicable to the existing study. For example, if you are doing a study on tuberculosis, then you have to define case definition of tuberculosis, to whom you will say in this study, that is the confirmed case. The definition, theoretical definition of tuberculosis is it is a granulomatous disease having symptoms like prolonged cough, uh, with sputum and fever, low grade fever with sweating, weight loss. But to whom you will consider the tuberculosis ultimately. So we will say that the definition in the National TB Control Program, the definition of case definition of tuberculosis is the person who is positive for AFP in 3 consecutive sputums tests will be considered as confirmed case of tuberculosis. Similarly, you can define hepatitis, the detection of organism on polymerase chain reaction or PCR they may be declared as hepatitis. Generally, there must be based on the operational definition must be based on most reliable methods for assessment, like diagnostics are better than the clinical assessments. Clinical assessments are skill based, they may be more based on while the diagnostics, the instruments and observation both are involved. The questionnaire is an essential component that must be produced at this time of submission of research proposal. It is the instrument for recording the data from interview, observation based on clinical and lab findings. So the questionnaire are not always presented, but interviewer can use the questionnaire, and they may be based for the recording of the observation. Um, uh, it is essential, and they are classified as closed-ended, where we frame the options in the form of check boxes, and they are easy to analyze, and usually in quantitative analysis closed-ended questions they are used. The open-ended questions are usually in the qualitative research, and there you the respondent are free to express themselves, and the question is open to them. Semi-structured question, when we collect the data and we put some in quantitative research, if we put some questions open-ended and some closed-ended, then it will become a mix of this uh, uh, questionnaire that is known as semi-structured questionnaire. Then references essential for authentication of your material and methods, and that may be from the published and unpublished literature. Um, and there are many systems for referencing systems. Most commonly known are used are the Vancouver style and APA system. Most of the universities in Pakistan, they recommend APA system, and College of Physician and Surgeon Vancouver style. And you can study the detail how these are implemented. Research impact, they are for the research impact, and they are for research work ranking. If your research is referred, and then it got the value and it is cited research. Annexure, supporting and referred material is the annexure. Like Glasgow comma scale or other scales, whatever you use in your questionnaire or in your study support, you can annex those tables, scales, and scoring charts for as an annexure. So it will make all these I have described all these proposal component, and proposal can be submitted to the authority with completion of all these annexures with the title and introduction, methodology, objectives, hypothesis, methodological steps, and all these things that will complete your research proposal. Thank you very much.